Welcome everyone to Wrasslin Raw!
You're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when the new generation took over the WWF. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
I'm going to prognosticate I will lambaste another plebeian right now!
Joe Gimateo.
I'd like to give you another introduction if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jason the Terrible.
That name's staying from last week.
Oh.
Yes, the Raper. Jason the Raper.
No, please, God, no. My one legacy, I don't want it to be that. I barely want it to be this podcast. I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history one episode of Raw at a time. But first, a quick update. The t-shirt contest is still going on, everybody. We'll give you more details on how to enter at the end of the episode. But for now, just be warned, it ends May 31st. So get your entries in now. Send us love notes. Send us questions. We would love to get some questions. Send us hate notes, whatever you want. Just slide up in our DMs. More details at the end of the episode. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the Raw that aired on March 6th, 1995. This Raw was recorded at the Macon Coliseum in Macon, Georgia, and features Vince McMahon and Jim Cornette on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I am ready.
Mm-hmm.
All right, then, let's get into it. For our intro this evening, Vince is going to bring us up to speed on the whole Bam Bam and LT situation. Last week, on Monday Night Raw, Bam Bam Bigelow directly challenged Lawrence Taylor to show up at the WrestleMania 11 news conference. Reporters from major news organizations across the country were on hand last Tuesday at the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York City to witness Lawrence Taylor's answer to Bam Bam Bigelow. Tonight, we bring you LT's shocking remarks about the match at WrestleMania with Bam Bam Bigelow, as well as comments from the World Wrestling Federation champion Diesel and his adversary and number one contender, Shawn Michaels. And here we have a camera shot of Psycho Sid in a suit, and he still looks absolutely fucking terrifying. The very Shawn Michaels, who tonight will be in action with the British Bulldog on Monday Night Raw. And as the show kicks off, they're letting off some pyro in the Macon Coliseum that seems like it was really, really fucking loud. I'm surprised anyone there still had their eardrums after that. And that's it. This is going to take us into our first match of the night. Shawn Michaels with Psycho Sid defeats the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith by pinfall in 17 minutes and 43 seconds. Shawn Michaels is out first with Psycho Sid following close behind. Sid has applied a fresh layer of baby oil. Shawn is really working through his little dance routine. Tons of confidence here, especially now that he's got the bodyguard watching his back. Vince treats us to a Rocket's red glare as the British Bulldog comes out. The bell rings and the work begins immediately. After some quick rope work, the Bulldog catches Shawn Michaels in midair, dropping him into an atomic drop, and both workers here are already giving it their all. The way that Shawn Michaels sells the atomic drop is classic. It only gets better, though, as the Bulldog takes the opportunity to whip Michaels into the corner. Michaels hits, but then overshoots, launched over the top rope and to the outside. The Bulldog is a powerhouse, and Shawn makes us see it. Michaels stumbles a bit at ringside, seems like he was a little jarred by that, and then every time he tries to get back into the ring, the Bulldog hits him with two big Bulldog paws straight to the mush, as Cornette said. Once Michaels is there, however, we get a tight, fast sequence of corner work and arm drag takedowns before Shawn is launched out of the ring again. Michaels is getting support from Sid here, and once back in the ring, we get a great sequence that centers around a simple headlock. I have to note here that this is a mark of fantastic storytelling. We see it applied so rarely here in these circumstances. But this sequence involves the Bulldog holding Shawn Michaels in a side headlock, Michaels attempting to run the Bulldog off to the ropes, and the Bulldog refusing to let go, reversing each run into a Bulldog. A great story in the ring built upon the foundation of a simple hold. Finally, Michaels is able to get the Bulldog to release, and when the Bulldog comes back off the ropes, Michaels lands a textbook arm drag on the much larger Bulldog, then locks in a short arm scissor, wrenching down, and both Michaels and the Bulldog are selling this hold perfectly. There's a back and forth pinning contest now between the two, rolling back and forth and getting 2 counts on each other while the hold is still locked in. We're going to break to commercial and come back with the same rolling pinfalls until the Bulldog manages to get his feet, and with Shawn Michaels still latched onto the Bulldog's arm, the Bulldog stands up, leveraging Shawn Michaels up onto the Bulldog's shoulder, using the position to land a modified suplex on Shawn Michaels. This was an excellent display of power on the Bulldog's part, a fantastic way to end the deadlock of trading pins in that arm scissor. Bulldog whips Michaels to opposite corners in turn, and Michaels sells the shit out of it. Now the Bulldog is going to lock on his own hold. In this case, it's a surfboard. And again, this is an amazing execution of a hold. The Bulldog is getting full extension, raising Michaels high into the air while stretching his extremities. Michaels sells the pain. Finally, Michaels tips out of it, and we move to a headlock on the mat to give the Bulldog a quick breather. It is brief, though, because neither of these guys wants to lose momentum, and the Bulldog goes to whip Michaels over the top rope and out of the ring. But wait, Psycho Sid is there, ready to give the assist. Sid catches Shawn Michaels, keeps him from hitting the concrete, and like a precious, precious baby, carefully sets Michaels back on the apron. Back in the ring, and the work continues. The Bulldog gets a hold of Michaels to put Shawn up in a standing vertical suplex. Vince relishes the opportunity to work with the timing on this move. As Bulldog is lifting Michaels, Vince says, "What goes up?" and leaves a pregnant pause in between before Bulldog completes the suplex while Vince finishes with, "Must come down." Michaels gets a hold of the Bulldog's tights, tossing him to the outside. And I think the Bulldog hit Vince's audio cable because Vince cuts out abruptly. I felt that we needed a cable puller out there. Where's the roadie? Sid has been lurking about outside this whole time, doing his job perfectly, not cheesing it up too much, but responding to the action in the ring appropriately. We'll sit in a headlock for a quick minute here, giving everyone a breather. And after that, we're back to work. Michaels manages to make a scoop slam on the Bulldog look easy. We'll sit back in a headlock again now, but the difference this time is that the crowd is getting more and more behind the Bulldog, cheering him on. There's a fantastic little sequence where, while Michaels has the sleeper applied to the Bulldog manages to work his way to the rope to attempt to force the release against the ropes. No dice, though, because Sid is there, and this monster is tall enough and strong enough to pull the rope back away from the ring, out of the way, stretching it so far that it looked like somebody could have been leaning on it. Sid is yelling, "Give it up, Bulldog," into the ring, but the Bulldog finally rallies and reverses into a suplex while we cut to commercial and come back to rope work and a double clothesline, both competitors down. Here the Bulldog briefly puts Michaels in a sleeper, Michaels flailing around before shoving the Bulldog off. Michaels is really selling his exhaustion here, then goes on to sell a military press for the Bulldog that ends in a crotch job to the ropes. He climbs off and then gets a whip to the corner that ends with another crotch shot, this time on the top turnbuckle. Both competitors are exhausted now, with the Bulldog on the outside, and Michaels distracts the official long enough for Sid to ram the Bulldog into the ring post. It is a miracle that the Bulldog did not fall unconscious. The Bulldog manages to get back into the ring, and it's over here as Shawn Michaels lands the sweet chin music super kick. gets the pinfall and the 3 count. Sid comes over to help Shawn Michaels up the entryway as we cut to commercial. Ryan, please get us started on this match.
Thank you. What a treat. As it starts out, the Bulldog's making his way down to the ring, and Vince kind of confuses me again because he's back to saying, acting like Shawn Michaels somehow cheated at Royal Rumble, saying that the Bulldog was the rightful winner. I don't know. I'm still confused by that because it seemed like Shawn Michaels won legitly 100%, but whatever, I'll let that go. Back to this fantastic match, though. I mean, right from the get-go, they are just making it look great, and they are going at each other hard. Probably one of the first things is that leg sweep that Michaels does, like over the head of the Bulldog towards the beginning. That was just great, and then 2 seconds later, he jumps up, and the Bulldog just catches him and bulls him to the ground, and then the Irish whip that you mentioned, Bartlett, that fantastic Irish whip that Michaels just oversells, but in such a graceful way that it almost doesn't look like an oversell, the way he just flies up over the turnbuckle. It was great. It was right around this time when Sid started coming close to the announcer table and Cornette brings up hazard pay. And I got to laugh because even just joking about it, hazard pay, Vince doesn't even acknowledge it. He just just doesn't laugh, just moves on to the next subject. After that, though, I mean, just great exchange after great exchange. The point where Michaels is basically just getting the shit kicked out of him by the Bulldog, and he just keeps on getting thrown out of the ring. And every time, Sid just picks him up like a little baby, puts him back on his feet and sends him back into the ring. And like you said, just great storytelling that we haven't seen too much of, anything like that. And the point with the short arm scissors to demonstrate the Bulldog's amazing strength where, they caught their breath for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes there, but then he just picks him up one arm and slams him. I mean, it was just such a fantastic display, both selling it well and Bulldog being able to pull it off. Later on in the match, again, we get Sid when he catches him and this time puts him right back up on the skirt. And from that point, Michaels is actually able to mount a bit of an offensive at that point. And the match picks up pace. It goes to that Shawn Michaels faster style of wrestling, and it all looks good. Even though we're deep into the match, the Bulldog's a big guy, but he's not winded yet. He's still doing a great job. There's really not a lot to say bad about this match. It's just amazing contrast to last week's anchor match with Luger and Tatanka, which was that was a 9-minute match that felt like a 20-minute match. This was a 20-minute match that felt like a 9-minute match. Just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't argue if you guys wanted to put this in a match of the year discussion. Just right off the bat here in March, we get a great match on Raw between two big names. Most of my notes are on Shawn Michaels. I mean, Shawn Michaels is just unbelievable in this match. The way he's selling with all these bumps that he's taking, it's no wonder he got addicted to painkillers at one point because he's taking some serious bumps here. It's crazy. Did he get the wind knocked out of him at one point? Like when he went outside and Vince was confused on what he was doing because Shawn was saying something like, I lost something.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. It almost looked like he got the wind knocked out of him a little bit. Not quite sure, but I don't know. I mean, he showed off some of his submission move skills in this match. Again, he does a great job of selling the fact that he's just tired and fatigued rather than actually selling an injury like a lot of guys do.
Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bret Hart, even Diesel. Diesel just did that recently. Razor Ramon has been doing it. Vince calls the Sweet Chin Music a back kick during this time. It's not quite evolved into the Sweet Chin Music yet, so that's fun to watch.
Is this the first time we have got to see him do it as a finisher?
It's the first time that we saw it, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I mean, it's not the first he's done it, but it's the first we've seen on Raw, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time he did it was on one of the pay-per-views, right?
No, this is the first time that we have seen it on TV.
Yeah, I think I remember when he was still doing commentary, he mentioned it
Yeah.
Because somebody else did it, and he called it Sweet Chin Music. That's right.
Yeah. But, I mean, I could go on and on about Shawn Michaels. The other thing is Sid. Sid played his role perfectly in this match. Like you said, Bartlett, he wasn't cheesing it up or getting too involved. Pulling the ropes away was hilarious. I loved that. Just imagine being in the front row there and having Sid just staring through your soul as a fan. Yeah, he's just staring at the fans, just giving them that evil stare. At the end, he got involved with the finish, but he wasn't really like the deciding factor of the finish, which I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That was a huge point with me. It didn't make it seem like he necessarily completely gave the match to Shawn Michaels, but he just did enough. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, he did his job perfectly as being the bodyguard and just has a massive presence there. It's just fantastic. Jim Cornette mentions that Pam and Tommy Lee got married. I think this is where Bruce Pritchard said that everything kind of went to shit with Pam for her appearance. And Bartlett, you mentioned, was it during, I think it might have been like before the Royal Rumble, you were saying, oh, we're never going to hear the end of Pam Anderson being at WrestleMania, but we really haven't heard much about her. I guess LT is kind of taking her thunder away.
Yeah.
Haven't really heard too much about her, but she's going to be there.
Along with a whole bunch of other people.
Yeah, this was a great kind of just sort of a preview of the guy that is going to be challenging for the world title. I thought it was just a great display of that.
Yeah, I'm on board with both of you here. This was a fantastic match. And it's funny that you bring it up there, Joe, because as I was watching it and as I was doing my notes here, I thought, this is a distinct possibility for a match of the year candidate here. I mean, that's a discussion that we'll have closer to the end of the year, obviously, but it's certainly not going to be forgotten anytime soon. I have to say, if we're thinking in terms of like maybe, not quite quarters, it's a little bit past first quarter, but certainly best match of the first quarter of 1995, I'd say. The juxtaposition between Shawn Michaels' style and the Bulldog style is significant, but they made it work together so well, so well. They pulled off something that a lot of other guys can't do at this time in the WWF, and just melded it together perfectly. I loved this match. The way that Michaels puts over the Bulldog the whole time, even though, they knew going into it that Michaels is going to be walking off with the win and blah, 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 but he did right by the Bulldog so well throughout this match. True professionals on both sides of the ring here. And Sid, I completely agree with both of you guys on Sid's, can we even really call it interference? I mean, I guess it technically is, but
he landed a hand, and that was about it.
But it wasn't heavy-handed in the way that it typically is with people like this. One just kind of bum rush into the ring post, and that was it. That and pulling the rope back, which by itself was, Joe, you thought it was funny. I thought it was just impressive as all hell, because that can't be easy. Those ropes are fairly tight to pull. It looked like he had it pulled back like a foot. Like that was like I was
could have been
watching
the angle.
He's a monster.
That's exactly right. He's a monster. That's what I was thinking whenever I was watching it. Like, holy shit, man. All in all, this made everybody look great. This made the Bulldog look great. This made Shawn Michaels look great. This made Sid look great, and Sid barely did anything. Fantastic match. But we're not going to dwell on it too long. We've got more to talk about here. We're going to move it along. And we'll have a quick promotional consideration paid for by the following. This is Bam Bam Hawking Slim Jims again, and then we go back to ringside. Cornette is going to go off about Shawn Michaels just a little bit more here, and then we're going to cut to Todd Pettingzoo, who very enthusiastically wants to talk about the WrestleMania press conference. There's a quick commercial break, and we come back to that InXS type music, and Pettingzoo is going to give us a pseudo WrestleMania report.
Are you talking about the WrestleMania music?
Yeah.
I also think you failed to mention that this was in the Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York City.
Yeah.
Just in case we didn't know. Please remind everyone.
They do repeat that quite frequently. The Harley-Davidson Cafe in New York City, the hub of news media everywhere. Pettingzoo. I have to say, though, he didn't do too bad of a job here. He didn't stay on screen for too long, and he stuck mostly to the point. There were legitimately tons of people there. They talked it up. There was a line out the door.
The most crowded press conference ever.
Yeah,
as Todd Pettingzoo said.
Yeah, there was, in all fairness, a lot of people there. I mean, that was a bit.
But that's a mighty statement.
Yeah, a little bit. We'll forgive Pettingzoo some hyperbole on that one. That's okay. It's a spectacle. But as far as press conferences go, this looked pretty legit. It was great staging on the part of the WWF here. Yeah. This looked great. It looked like it wasn't a WWF set-up event. You know what I mean? Diesel's there. He's going to give a statement. And Diesel basically just breaks down his career, his entire fucking career in the WWF thus far. Even going so far as to hit us with an almost Lou Gehrig-esque statement. I'm the happiest man on the earth right now. Next up, Shawn Michaels gives a statement with Sid in that suit standing behind him. God damn, chills just thinking about it. I wouldn't want that fucker standing behind me like that. Shawn Michaels lays down a pretty decent promo challenging Diesel. But now we're going to get to the meat of the matter with Bam Bam Bigelow, who, as usual, took advantage of an opportunity. Bam Bam is going off, saying there's no professional football player out there who can step into his world, the wrestling ring. I quote, "This isn't out on the field where you got 11 other guys. This is one-on-one. It's eye to eye. It's nose to nose. It's fist to fist." And goes on to call LT a flash in the pan. LT is up now and lights it up, saying in regard to Bam Bam, "I've made a lot bigger and a lot better than him retire from football." He calls Bam Bam an Easter egg, and they end it with a tense handshake and stare down, which LT ends with a quick smooch to Bam Bam's cheek before walking away. The match has been sealed. LT and Bam Bam will meet in the ring at WrestleMania. Also released was the names of the other celebrities that will be taking part in WrestleMania 11. Pamela Anderson will be there to escort Shawn Michaels to his championship match. Nicholas Turturro from NYPD Blue will be on hand to make sure justice will be done, whatever the fuck that means. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, that's the middle kid from Home Improvement, will be there, as will former Playboy Playmate Jenny McCarthy, acting as a timekeeper. My God.
Keeping vaccinations away from everyone.
Yeah, well, let's just focus on her true talents for this. Her ability to look good and ring a bell. That's all I care about. Also, alt-rock group Fishbone will be there. I have to admit, I tried to get into Fishbone a while back. Didn't quite take. And we'll get a quick promo from Bob Backlund, who was just doing jumping jacks in his robe, and a commercial for the WWF Fan Festival. But before we move on, Joe, please, what did you think about the press conference and where we're at in the story so far?
Well, Todd's hair looks worse than ever. It's so bad. It almost looks like a Lego man mullet. Like it doesn't move at all in the back.
Oh, wow.
It's like it's like a block. The Diesel promo was just meh. It was okay. Shawn's was good. It kind of helped go for that feel of a boxing presser. I think it's kind of what they were trying to go for here. Bam Bam's promo was, it was okay, I thought. Nothing great, just kind of similar to all of his other ones. LT calling him an Easter egg was pretty funny. I'd like to know, like, if anyone's feeding him those lines or if he's coming up with all that shit on his own. But either way, he delivers it pretty well, both this week and last week. I think they could have done a little bit of a better job with the actual acceptance of the match. It just seemed like... Did LT like officially say, yes, I will accept his challenge?
To me, the way that I heard it was that like they were all talking about it as if it was already a done deal and everybody already knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm. So maybe they just didn't show that part on Raw. I don't know. But I thought they could have done a better job with that. But I don't know. I mean, either way, it's still good to have them face to face finally. for the first time since the Rumble. Could you guys imagine how hard Jim Ross's cock is during this whole this football angle? My God.
If only it was, Oklahoma or...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sooner alumni.
Last note here is basically with the celebrities. I mean, you got like 2 women that are like in their prime here, playmates. Nicholas Turturro, who fucking cares? Fishbone's terrible. Jonathan Taylor Thomas, star of Man of the House.
And that is Kid from Home Improvement.
Yeah.
Middle kid.
Bruce Pritchard actually told a funny story about him when he was, I guess, like before the WrestleMania show, they kept referring to the 1, 2, 3 Kid as the Kid. So they kept saying like, oh, the kid's going to do this, the kid's going to do that. And I guess Jonathan Taylor Thomas's mom got pissed because they thought that they were talking about him. And she had no idea they were talking about the 1, 2, 3 Kid. Because she's like, he's not a kid. He has a name. It's Jonathan. And he's like, we're talking about the 1, 2, 3 Kid.
He came over. Gee willikers, ma'am. They're just talking about me.
Yeah. Man of the House got 14% on the tomato meter. So fuck Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
So I'm depressed about Todd Pettingzoo has to do this voiceover, but other than that, it was a pretty strong segment, I thought so. The Diesel promo, kind of flat, like we get out of Diesel typically at this point, but Shawn Michaels did a excellent job. I really enjoyed his little promo he cut up there. I thought he did the best what you could do with this, like you said, boxing style press conference thing. So yeah, that he did a good job. And I agree with you, Joe. Bam Bam, last week and this week, I don't know if was at his best these last 2 weeks, but I thought LT did a really good job, especially for a civilian. I mean, to have someone who isn't used to, you know what I mean? Like, honestly, to have someone who's not used to actually shooting promos like this, WWF style, and to come up here and actually sound like he fits right in. And the handshake, the little kiss on the cheek, that was just a cherry on the top. It was pretty great all around. I enjoyed it. Outside of the confusion, I was thinking the same thing. When LT was up there giving his speech, I was like, I feel like we're missing something here because it sounds like this match is already a sure thing. So that would be one knock against it, but as far as extending the storyline, it did a really good job of that.
Yeah, I'm going to, I guess, be on the outside on this one. I thought it was all great. I don't have any kind of critique for this. I mean, I do see what you guys are saying, and I understand your criticisms of it, but I just didn't feel that way about it at all. I thought that Bam Bam gave a pretty good promo. His line about one-on-one, eye-to-eye, nose-to-nose, fist-to-fist, I thought that was a great line. Same with LT. I do agree that Diesel's promo was just, like I said in my breakdown there, it really just reminded me of somebody trying to give a fucking Lou Gehrig speech, Aside from that, it was good to find out about the celebrities. We've finally got some like an official word on that. Not that I necessarily care about them, although, to be fair, Nicholas Turturro does come to entertain us later, and we will get to that. But Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who gives a shit? And Jenny McCarthy, just as a matter of personal preference, I'll take Jenny McCarthy over Pamela Anderson any day, as long as we don't talk about vaccines. It'll be great. We can not talk about MMR, both the vaccine and the wrestler. both of those topics would just ruin the mood. And I had totally forgot about Fishbone, the band Fishbone.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, and you're going to forget about him here shortly as well.
Well, it's like I said, I remember trying to get into them a couple years back whenever I was looking for alternative bands that I had never really listened to and didn't quite make the Bartlett collection, but...
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Overall, though, I felt this was a pretty good pseudo report here. But now we're going to head into our next match. Bob Backlund defeats Buck Quartermain by submission in 5 minutes and 50 seconds. There's no music, no nothing. Backlund is here in the ring, and so's Quartermain.
Jobber versus jobber.
It's like they don't even care about trying to get us excited about this. It just, I don't know what is going on here with this, but try to get us a little engaged, just a little.
We got that promo.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a prolonged spot where Quartermain refuses to shake Backlund's hand, and Backlund attempts to play off the crowd. Doesn't really work. Backlund is showing us some of his real wrestling skills from the beginning, though, with a couple of tosses. Ryan, I'm sure you loved those and were analyzing them with a very fine eye.
They were actually doing a pretty decent job there at the beginning, both of them.
All right. Just tone it down. Ease up there, Horn Dog. You'll get your chance. There's a lot of stalling going on here, with Backlund dancing around and looking goofy in general. Vince gives us the fantastic news that Backlund is going to meet Bret the Hitman Hart in an I Quit match at WrestleMania. Hot dog. Backlund just won't quit dancing around in the ring. It's really, really tedious. There's a mention that The Undertaker will be taking on King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania. And now Vince is going to pitch the call-in line, 1-900 Shameless, where apparently they're going to tell you the only thing that The Undertaker fears on option 2. And I wonder how many options they have. Now it's a $1.49 flat rate per minute rather than the $1.49 for the first and 99 cents for the rest that it used to be. In the ring, Backlund horribly sells a clothesline, and finally, Backlund ends all of our suffering with the crossface chicken wing and refuses to let go as the officials attempt to pull him and Quartermain apart. They do get pulled apart eventually, and we will move it along. But first, Ryan, please, what did you think of this match?
Bob Backlund is never that fun to watch. I'm going to, just start off with that, just so you understand where I'm coming from when I say I actually thought this was one of Backlund's better matches. Now, that's not to say it was a great match or a good match even, but as far as Backlund matches go, I thought it was okay. He worked with Buck Quartermain pretty good. You could tell they both, as you mentioned at the beginning, had some collegiate wrestling experience as they kind of were doing those realistic wrestling moves to start off. Those didn't look bad at all. And I actually liked the spot where you had the little group of kids. They were teenagers. They weren't young kids. They started chanting Opie. And Backlund, acted like he was going to come out of the ring. And, it seemed really, really old-fashioned. It reminded me of going to see a local match at a gymnasium and the type of stuff that the wrestlers would do in the ring to try and get the crowd involved in a match during that. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And that's where Bob Backlund is, I think, most comfortable, in that just really old school style local wrestling. That's the type of wrestler he reminds me of. But it wasn't very fantastic. Backlund misses a couple. The clothesline looks terrible. We also get some terrible news during this match. We find out about the King Kong Bundy Undertaker. Man, to drop to drop that news on us, that will ruin any match. So yeah, I don't think it was a great match, but I do think it was one of the better matches we have seen out of Backlund.
Yeah, I don't have much noted about the match itself. I did note that Ryan, like you said, with Backlund kind of pretending to go after the fans after they were chanting like that. That's obviously, that's what he does best. Yeah. And that was okay. But Quartermain yelling, "I quit," to kind of go with the gimmick was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
So, there was some entertainment out of this. And I don't know whether I hated it when it happened, but then I thought, well, these are going to be two shitty matches anyway, so who cares? But Vince just randomly announces those two WrestleMania matches like it's nothing, rather than doing some sort of build-up. They kind of did a thing with the I Quit match with Jerry Lawler and Bob Backlund, but it's just like randomly announced here. I don't know. It's kind of a missed opportunity, but they're both shitty matches, so who cares? Oh, and Jim Cornette made his joke that got him into trouble this year.
Oh, yeah.
This was the match where he made his joke that was not a very good one to make in 2020 or 19 or whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah, we'll just say the comment about fried chicken in Ethiopia that got him booted from NWA Power. It was so jarring, like not jarring, but just, I don't know, shocking. Like, holy shit, he said it again, like
the same
back in
exact
1995. Joke. Yeah, same delivery, everything. Like,
and knowing Cornette, that is probably his answer as to why. Like, what's the big deal? I said it back in 95.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, it's not even funny. Like, it's supposed to be a joke, but like, I don't know. I don't even think it's that funny. But he's calling it a joke. Like, that's what he said this year was, oh, it was a joke. It was supposed to be funny. But I don't know. To me, it's just like, I don't know. It's not that funny. Most of the stuff that he's doing, we've talked about it, especially you, Ryan, with the past few weeks. Like, Jim Cornette's just not that great on commentary during this time, in my opinion. I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great manager, but I don't like him on commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm starting to get on board with you guys with that. Past couple weeks, whenever you guys had some issues with some of his commentary, I wasn't quite there yet, but there were a few times during this episode where in the back of my head, I'm like, just shut up, Cornette. Please, just shut up, Cornette. As far as the comment goes, it's extremely poor taste and extremely poorly done, and especially in 2020, but back in 1995 too. I think everybody just kind of gives him too much shit about it, though, because he's from Kentucky. The first thing that's going to come to his mind is fried chicken. I don't know. I'm not going to defend it too much, but fried chicken is delicious. Let's not forget that fact.
Well, no doubt.
But you know what it's creating for him with people?
Cheap heat.
Bad blood. Bad blood.
Yeah.
I noticed you, right before this, you did skip a Pettingzoo segment for the fan festival for kids.
Oh, yes.
I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, at the very end. Okay. After.
Yeah.
That actually looks awesome, by the way.
I would have loved that when I was a kid. Yeah.
It kind of looked like the WWF version of Space Camp at NASA.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it reminded me of.
You get to get in the ring. You get to meet Razor Ramon, a couple other superstars.
I thought it would have been great standing up against that life-size stand-up of Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
Like, just to see how you stacked up against him. And they really, really quickly moved past the Hulk Hogan surplus t-shirts that they had for sale there. You just briefly got a glimpse of them, and then the camera moved on to the Bret the Hitman Hart shirts.
Yeah, I was super jealous of those kids. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. As far as Bob Backlund in this match that we're coming out of, though, I just wanted to say, for the record, and for all of our listeners out there, I'm an asshole. I'm not an asshole for anybody at this particular moment, but I apologize to both of you and to all of the listeners for thinking anything positive about Bob Backlund a few months ago when things started and whenever he came back and started his shit with the chicken wing. And I remember being pretty up about it and having, a lot of good things to say about the
You realize
the
it hasn't evolved at all. It's still the same shit.
Yeah, back then, I was young and naive. 6 months ago, I was young and naive and didn't know anything, really. And my bad, guys. My bad.
It's all right. There's no bad blood. Bad blood.
Hey, what's up with his dancing? When did that start?
I don't know. It's like his promo before this match too. I didn't even want to describe it because instead of trying to be like a serious heel, he's devolving into a cartoon character now.
Yeah. He is Opie, what they were calling him.
Yeah.
This whole thing, like, God, I don't know what I was thinking. This is like the podcast equivalent of the walk of shame. I just need to get my shoes on and fucking leave right now. But we'll move it along to the bad blood graphic. bad blood, bad blood. They just like flash it at us. There's plenty of bad blood between Jerry the King Lawler and Bret the Hitman Hart. And in all fairness, there is bad blood, bad blood. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Then we get a video package of all of the run-ins between Lawler and Hart. A couple highlights of some of the genius insults that Lawler routinely throws at the Hart parents, Stu and Helen. Just classic. I love, like, Stu, why don't you turn your false teeth around backwards and eat your own head?
And you know what that creates? Bad blood.
This is all just a complex way of saying that next week on Monday Night Raw, we're going to have Jerry Lawler versus Bret the Hitman Hart. And this will take us into our final match of the night. Duke the Dumpster Droese defeats Steven Dunn of Tag Team Well Done with Harvey Whippleman by pinfall in 3 minutes and 55 seconds. And Steven Dunn is our jobber of the week. Take it, Ryan.
Thank you, Jason. Steven Dunn is this week's jobber. I know before here at Wrasslin Raw, we have contemplated that maybe the team of Well Done are not jobbers. And I'll get to exactly why later on when we are talking about the match as to why I exactly decided that Steven Dunn has descended to jobber status now. But I'm just going to go over his career right now. Steven Dunn was born Stephen Lyle Dahl on December 9th, 1960 in Dallas, Texas. Dahl began training in 1984 with the retired Rick and John Davidson, and in 1985 made his debut for Mid-South Wrestling in a loss to Dick Slater. Unlike the last few jobbers we've had, Steve has only ever used 2 ring names. His real name, Steven Dahl, and the one that he's using here, Steven Dunn. Dahl would stay with Mid-South Wrestling until 87, when he joined Pacific Northwest Wrestling, or the PNW. He stayed with PNW until 1992. During this time, he would win PNW's heavyweight and tag team titles an impressive 18 times. Steve and his last tag partner for the PNW, Rex King, would both join the WWF in 1993, now going by the names Steve Dunn and Timothy Well, forming the tag team Well Done. Well Done was used mainly as an undercard team with their biggest push already behind us, which was one of Bartlett's favorites, I know. It was their feud with the Bushwhackers, and that we went over just a little while ago. After leaving the WWF in late 95, Dahl spent the next couple years wrestling for USWA out of Memphis, Tennessee. He also had a few matches for WCW during this time, including his most memorable wrestling moment of his career. Well, as far as fans are concerned, at least. On May 27th, 1996, while wrestling the Mauler on WCW's Monday Night Nitro, his match would be interrupted by the debuting Scott Hall and marking the beginning of the NWO. So, yeah, that is his most memorable moment.
Wow. Truly a jobber. He even jobbed out the entire WCW.
After the ASWA folded in 97, Steve spent the rest of his career bouncing between different promotions, but mainly for Music City Wrestling. Most of the time teaming with Wrasslin Raw's favorite jobber, Reno Riggins. His last match is not really known because the last few years he was showing up in a lot of very small local shows, so the exact date of when he stopped wrestling is not really noted anywhere online. Tragically, though, on March 22nd, 2009, Dahl died after a blood clot formed in one of his lungs and reached his heart. He was only 48 years old.
Jeez.
Wow. That's such a great moment when Scott Hall comes in there. Like, Scott Hall's just like, give me a mic, and just goes into the ring, and those guys just have to stop wrestling. And this guy was one of them. That's fantastic.
I think it's interesting how so many of your Jobber of the Week people have been the champions of so many different indie outfits. So many of them. I mean, not like Steven Dunn. Mark Starr, I think, was a champion somewhere.
Yeah, minor league stars.
Ha ha! We're gonna take your talent and humiliate them, pal. Yeah, no, very, very interesting, though. Thank you, Ryan. So, back in the match, Dunn and Whippleman are already in the ring. They don't get an entrance or music. Truly jobbers here. First ever jobber with a manager that I can think of, though.
Yes, yeah.
Apparently, Wrigley's Spearmint Gum is a sponsor of our episode here tonight, and it is a smoking alternative, if you didn't know. Take a shot every time they use the word smoking for that segment. Duke the Dumpster comes down now, and after a quick commercial break, we're going to have Jerry the King Lawler on the phone so that we can ignore this match. Duke tries unsuccessfully to get Steven Dunn up into a military press. He starts, and he tries, but can't quite get the extension on the arms to get Steven Dunn up. At this point, though, I had to note that Steven Dunn looks like he could be Stevie Richards' dad. He looks like an older, blonde, fluffy version of Stevie Richards. Heavier, too, but...
To me, he just looks like a guy that time warped from 1987 to 1995.
Especially with the neon outfit. On the phone, Lawler gives us another piece of gold when he says that Brett's dad, Stu Hart, reminds Lawler of Santa Claus because everywhere Stu Hart goes, he carries that old bag with him. I will never, ever get tired of Jerry Lawler shitting on Stu and Helen Hart. It is consistently hilarious. In the ring, Steven Dunn isn't doing too bad, but he doesn't have much to work with in Duke the Dumpster Droese. Finally, Duke gives a long-winded call-out, yelling to the crowd that eventually adds up to the fact that he's going to take out the trash. Duke lands the trash compactor, gets the pin, and the 3 count. But no, things aren't quite done yet, as Steven Dunn tries to pick up Duke's garbage can, and at this point, I was terrified that we were going to have an even lower rent version of the stealing the urn angle here. But no, it's just being used as a weapon. Duke reverses it, dumping trash out everywhere as he hits Dunn with the can. Dunn and Whippleman run off, and to his credit, and keeping in the gimmick, Duke pauses to start picking up the trash that littered out of the can. And it's a good thing he does, because Duke finds a $100 bill tucked into a banana peel. The Dumpster climbs back up into the ring, kinda teasing that he's going to give it away. A lot of people in the arena, I think, thought that he was about to hand out a $100 bill, but then he tucks it in his front pocket and leaves the ring. This whole thing was extremely confusing. But, and I thought at this point, this was going to be the way that we were going to end Raw. I thought that it was going to be another shit match to cap things off, but before the show ends, we get an NYPD Blue style scene of Nick Turturro in an interview room. Nick Turturro's leaning forward on a desk and he says, "We got a problem here, Mr. Paul Bearer. This man's been missing since November. Double wide, double deep." And here he throws down a picture of Yokozuna. "We think foul play is involved, and you're our number one suspect." And now we hear Paul Bearer's voice. Just his voice. We can't see him in the room. "But why me, Detective Turturro?" "We got eyewitnesses that put you at the crime scene, and we got your fingerprints all over the coffin. And here is where this shit goes absolutely bananas." We cut to Mr. Fuji sitting there at the interview table, and Paul Bearer is there dressed in a blonde wig and flowered muumuu dress with pearl necklace. Total drag on Paul Bearer here. "But I didn't do anything wrong." "Oh yeah? Then why have you been hiding?" "Hiding? I haven't been hiding." "What about the dress? Dress? What dress? Then the Undertaker's bell tolls. Turturro says, what? And Paul Bearer starts screeching, yes, oh yes, as the lights go out, and Turturro then yells, hey, put those back on. And when the lights come back up, Fuji is now in the dress. Fuji just kind of like shakes and yells, what happened? And Paul Bearer is in his usual getup. Turturro is now going to say, as I was saying, you're a decent man, Mr. Bearer, and I'm sure you'll excuse me while I take care of this cross-dressing lowlife who desecrates the American flag. While Fuji weakly says, no. And then there's punching noises as we get the WrestleMania 11 graphic, some church organ sounds, and finally Turturro's voice saying, oh, and tell The Undertaker I wish him well at WrestleMania. Back at ringside, Vince reminds us that next week, Jerry the King Lawler is going to take on Bret the Hitman Hart, and we'll end the episode with a video package of highlights from the press conference and the episode of Raw that we just watched. Joe, please, before we let Ryan do his thing, Joe, why don't you just start us off real quick on Duke the Dumpster, his match, and then that NYPD Blue promo to end our episode here.
Duke the Dumpster, not much to say about that. He's trash. He is trash.
He is.
He kind of gets the shaft, though, because this guy comes out with a trash can that he's not even allowed to use because we're in PG era here, and then it becomes a staple, like, 3 or 4 years later, people are beating each other with trash cans. So he kind of gets the shaft, I kind of feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Mostly commentary comments here from me. Cornette and Vince plug the show Duckman, which I used to love that show.
Yes.
Lawler on the phone. They're continuing this Bret Hart as a racist storyline thing. I don't know where they're going with it, but it needs to speed up a little bit for me. Vince yells, goodbye to Jerry Lawler and hangs up on him. I don't know. This was a garbage match. Thank God for Nicholas Turturro at the end here. Because this match was just terrible. And when Duke's picking up the trash at the end, it kind of reminded me of like when you're at like a really shitty low rent strip club and the music stops and the stripper's like picking up all of her dollar bills. And it's really awkward. Oh my
God. Yes. And it's really awkward. Yes.
Yeah. I got to think the $100 bill is like a setup for a DiBiase feud with one of his guys,
Yeah, I was waiting for the music to
like
start.
Tatanka to come out or somebody. I don't know. Who cares? But holy shit, Nick Turturro. I mean, this guy has done like pretty much nothing other than NYPD Blue that I'm aware of. But man, was he fucking great on this with this whole segment is just unbelievable. I watched it like 3 times. I rewound it. Yeah. I couldn't believe it. I didn't remember it at all. Paul Bearer, not only is he the most beautiful man in wrestling, but he's also the most beautiful woman in wrestling. Mr. Fuji, shit. As soon as he shows up with the dress on, they turn the lights on, he's like grabbing his fake tits. Like, oh! I loved it.
So I'll start off with the match. We've all kind of talked about the Duke and his normal garbage style of wrestling. Though I did laugh at the very beginning, this is just commentary, when Jim Cornette briefly brings up the Justice Department and Vince responds with, I thought I told you before, this is a family show. I thought that was a pretty good comment out of Vince there. But the best thing about this match is that for a good portion of it, Steve Dunn was in control. I mean, this is, of course, why I picked him as a jobber, though, because we ignore that. That's the point where we're talking to the King. 2 things happened. The beginning, when he had 0 entrance and he was just in the ring getting ready to fight the dumpster, and that during the entire point where he was in control, we ignored. Those 2 things are what moved him into jobber status as far as I'm concerned. But when he was in control, it actually didn't look too bad. But anytime the dumpster took over, it was bad. I mean, he's just a terrible wrestler. Everything he does looks bad. And at the end, I almost thought that maybe I was like, oh, all of my thoughts about Dunn maybe are wrong here. Maybe he's not a jobber. I was thinking maybe they were going to start a feud. But no, Duke just comes out, kicks him in the stomach, and throws him back towards the locker room. And I said, nah, he's a jobber. The point with the $100 bill, though, I think I actually was a little bit entertained by it. I don't know why, but just how genuinely happy he seemed to find that $100. It kind of entertained me, but
it was his payment for that match.
Yeah, it probably was his payment. And half of it went to Gary Sabaw, so, But it doesn't matter because the match wasn't great and we got to move past it onto the NYPD Nick. Man, my Lord, when Paul Bearer showed up in that wig and dress, when we get that shot of him and him doing his that was some classic stuff right there. Constantly, every time we see him, his face on the screen, it just reinforces the most beautiful face in wrestling every single time. And then when the lights go out and Fuji's in there, just great. The way that he was just startled and like, ah! And the remarks by Nick, we were talking about things that wouldn't fly in 2020. When he says to Paul Bear, well, you seem like a decent man, and I'm sure you'll excuse me while I take care of this cross-dressing lowlife. Like, ooh, man, that's pretty rough there, Nicky boy. But fantastic segment. I mean, you just brought up last week that we were ending with garbage time and time again, but yet here we are leaving with this golden nugget.
I'm agreed with just about everything with you guys here. The Duke the Dumpster match, whatever. I'd like to nominate Harvey Whippleman for Jobber of the Year, based solely on this match and his feud with Howard Finkel. Moving past that, however, it is what it is. It was a jobber match where you couldn't really tell who the real jobber was. And that's not just a way of being cheeky about it with this match, because, technically Stephen Dunn has been kind of a main eventer in a couple of Raws here. There was legitimate question between us before about whether or not he had transcended jobber status. But then we've always been joking about how Duke the Dumpster is a jobber too. So, what else can you really say about this match? It was jobber on jobber. I guess the only thing that really told us who the star was supposed to be is the one that got music. As for this segment, I sometimes get a little cynical because of the way that Raw is run and because of the way that they do things and the way they organize things. And then there are times like these. This was quite possibly, and I can't think, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is quite possibly the single best ending that we've ever had on Raw. I mean, in the 2 years that we've been watching this, what do you think? I can't think of anything.
I'm racking my brain right now, and I'm not coming up with anything.
I mean, we've had a couple good matches here and there that were good matches. They were never match of the year candidates, though. And now we've got this. My God.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that it's definitely one of the best uses of celebrity, too, that we've seen. And it's kind of just not a throwaway thing, but, it wasn't something they were like building up. But this guy does a great job with this.
Yeah.
Given what he had to work with, it's not easy to do. But the whole thing was just unbelievably great.
Yeah, it's kind of put Nick Turturro, up there on a level. He's kind of moved back past Chuck Norris a little bit here for me, because he was willing to do this, kind of like how LT is past Chuck Norris for me personally. The way that all of the celebrity shit has been stacking up so far going into this. I mean, we don't know too much about Pamela Anderson yet, and obviously Jenny McCarthy's just going to be there for the bell. I can only hope that we might get some more just genuine goodness like this. It seems like he might have something to do with The Undertaker. There was the comment that was made earlier about Nick Turturro is going to be there to make sure justice is done. Maybe Nick Turturro is going to be the linchpin that ends this ridiculous fucking urn angle.
Well, it almost seems like he's kind of there as a better version of the
Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen, yes. The Leslie Nielsen search for the real Undertaker shtick thing.
Okay.
It seems like a better version of that.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Right now, or this may have just been a one-off hilarious thing.
Right,
True.
right. But it seems like we're going to continue to look for the Yokozuna, right?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Excellent ending to a Raw. I loved it. So, that being said, the episode is over and we are going to move it to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, go first, please.
So, highlight, I would like to say it was a very easy choice, but because of that ending, it wasn't. It was such a great ending, but I had to go with the Bulldog Shawn Michaels match. This was just great. We talked about it at length at the beginning of this match, so there's not a ton more to say here, but this was pay-per-view level greatness out of this match. So, I mean, this is why we tune in to watch wrestling, matches like this. So, highlight was definitely that. Low light, I thought outside of a couple throwaway matches, it was a pretty strong Raw. So I'm going to kind of give a cop-out low light, and I am going with the fact that Todd Pettingzoo was in between just about every match tonight. We got a Pettingzoo segment. So I really, really wasn't happy about that. And because of what I thought was a strong Raw, I'm going with that cop-out low light.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Ryan's highlight. I'm going with Shawn Michaels versus British Bulldog, but it was an easy decision. I think this whole entire Raw show was very entertaining. Probably up to this point, probably my favorite episode of Raw for 95. We were due for a match like this too. I mean, it's been, the two matches that we talked about from WrestleMania 10. We had a SummerSlam match and a 1-2-3 Kid and Bret Hart were like June of 94, I think. So, I mean, this is March of 95. We were due for a match like this. I loved it. As far as a low light, I'd go with the random announcements of the other WrestleMania matches that Vince makes during a match. I mean, at least have fucking Pettingzoo. And if you're going to put Pettingzoo on the entire show, at least have him make like an announcement like he normally does. A huge part of wrestling is storytelling, and they just kind of threw these two away. And not that it would help these matches that much, but I don't know. I just feel like I was pissed off that they just randomly announced it.
Well, I have to say that, well, first of all, my highlight is going to be the Bulldog Shawn Michaels match, but this was, like you, Ryan, I had a really, really, really hard time separating that from this Paul Bearer thing at the end. Just because, I mean, it was so well filmed, but at the same time, it was so unexpected because you didn't see Paul Bearer at first until they switched over and then you get him in the dress. Like, I can't put it over enough. It was amazing.
I have not laughed this hard watching a Raw since Bob Holly's concussion.
Yes. And that being said, we're here for wrestling. It's in the title of the fucking podcast, and like you guys have mentioned, we don't get enough of this. We haven't gotten enough of this in 1995 so far. We've had like one or two other really good matches, and that's it. This, in my opinion, so far is the best of 95 so far, and I can't say any more about it that I hadn't said already. The clash of styles, just excellent. An excellent way to start this Raw. Low light, I'm going with the Backlund match. Didn't care for it. It made me realize how much of a fucking moron I was earlier. You know, nobody wants to realize that about themselves, and that's what this match did to me. So, there it is. Yeah. We'll go over to Joe here now. Joseph, do you have any contemporary wrestling news from on and around March 6th, 1995 for us?
I do, and most of it revolves around the Harley-Davidson press conference for WrestleMania.
Where was that again? Where was that? Where did that take place again?
I think it was at the Harley-Davidson Center or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
But they're not lying about the signing of LT at WrestleMania receiving major coverage worldwide. There was a lot of media surrounding this. Most of the media of Lawrence Taylor included strongly negative remarks about pro wrestling and almost openly talked of scripts and fixed outcomes and stuff like that, of course. The known payout to Lawrence Taylor is unknown at this point, but Meltzer's speculating that he's getting $150,000. That just seems so low to me.
Yeah.
He also noted that William Refrigerator Perry earned $135,000 for WrestleMania 2. So, I don't know. It's been called bullshit before with Meltzer and his salaries and numbers and all that shit, so who knows if that's true. As far as WrestleMania grossing numbers, just to give you guys an idea of how much WrestleMania was grossing during these days, WrestleMania 5, featuring Hulk Hogan versus Macho Man Randy Savage, grossed more than $20 million, making it the biggest grossing wrestling show in history. Last year, we covered WrestleMania 10, and that grossed $12.4 million. So I think what they're trying to do, Meltzer seems to think that they're trying to get Lawrence Taylor in there to maybe be a factor that could kind of beat WrestleMania 5's gross revenue during this time, but who knows. Lawrence Taylor was involved in a wrestling angle briefly in WCW in 1991 at a house show, apparently. So this is not his first rodeo with wrestling. He didn't actually wrestle, but he was involved in an angle. Howard Stern was mentioned by Todd Pettengill as being part of this press conference. Well, Howard himself was not there, but he had his Stuttering John was there, asking his normal ridiculous questions that he always asks. Stuttering John, one of the questions that he asked Lawrence Taylor was, "Have you ever dated Nicole Simpson?"
Oh, man.
And this is like right in the time where the trial was happening, so that was pretty terrible.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it.
Yes.
Not too long ago.
Howard Stern himself spent about 20 minutes on his radio show, basically just ripping this press conference. He makes fun of wrestling all the time, but he made fun of Todd Pettengill in particular, because Todd Pettengill tried to tell a joke to open things at the conference where he poured Vince McMahon a glass of water and saying this is how he got the job.
What?
Stern responded by saying Pettengill got his job by pulling down Vince McMahon's pants, not by pouring him water.
That's one of the worst fucking jokes to open up anything. It's not even funny. Yeah.
Well, it's Todd Pettingzoo. What do you expect?
Yeah.
And another thing about that event was, if you remember, and Bartlett, you mentioned that, you know, they kind of said, like, if you're not here, then you're missing out on this huge event. And apparently this wasn't even open to the public. So they made it sound like it was open to the public the week before. And apparently there's like 500 people that showed up and they weren't allowed in. Just, you know, regular wrestling fans. So 1-900 Shameless again. Davey Boy Smith was sued for $1.3 million over an alleged barroom attack back in 1993, and that's set to go on trial in June of 1995. So that's going to happen here pretty soon. And last thing noted, Dave Meltzer gave the Shawn Michaels versus British Bulldog match 3.25 stars. I think it's deserving of more than that.
3.25 stars?
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that does seem really low. All right, well, thank you very much, Joseph. And that's going to be it. We're going to end this episode of Wrasslin Raw. Just real quick, I want to remind all of our listeners about our t-shirt contest. So the way that you enter our t-shirt contest is to send us a direct message, slide up in our DMs. You use either Twitter or Instagram to do this. On Twitter, we are at Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. And on Instagram, we are at WRASSLINRAWPODCAST. So, hit us with whatever you want. Send us a message. We would prefer questions to answer. That'd be great. But whatever you want, tell us to go fuck ourselves. That'll work too. Just remember to keep it to our DMs and keep it to Twitter and Instagram, because if you contact us on any of our other social media platforms, which there are many, we won't be counting it. So, that being said, the t-shirt contest ends May 31st. And that's it, folks. We're done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can find us on every major social media and podcast subscription platform by searching up the handle Wrasslin Raw. That's WRASSLINRAW. While you're there, don't forget to click subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and let your friends know about the fastest growing wrestling podcast in the world. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 13th, 1995, with matches featuring the Headshrinkers, Barry Horowitz, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.